really being the best assistant to
Great.
the mayor and board ever. It's of course my computer is very slow because it's vintage, but there's a
All
little
right.
delay. Here we are. Okay, awesome. You're ready to go. I'm gonna shut
Okay.
myself up now.
Excellent. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And does anybody second that? Do I need a second for that? Okay, Susan has seconded. And first we'll go to membership updates. And this is great because we can welcome our new member, Steve Preston. And Steve is a landlord, which will be great too because we desperately need landlords. So that's a really good thing. So we welcome him. And we really need new members. We need one tenant and one alternate tenant, and 3 landlord seats are empty. So if anybody has any ideas about any way to reach out to people or anybody who might be interested, like please speak to them because we could really use some people. And I did put an announcement on the New Paltz Public Access Channel 23 page that's running, and I think I'm going to look into maybe making a couple of different variations on that they could rotate, because then it could be something different to look at and it might catch somebody's attention. Although I'm not really sure, to be honest, how many people watch the public access channel, but I hope some people do. And if I think we'd like to create some Facebook posts for the page and the community page on Facebook and other social media that anybody's active on. So if anyone has any thoughts about that or wants to go ahead and do it, you're welcome to do it. And I urge you to think of things that that would work. Um,
For what it's worth, the reason I signed up was because I saw Alexandra's Facebook post asking for members on this committee.
oh, great, great. That's good to know. So we'll definitely do some more things on Facebook and all of that social media stuff. So hopefully we can get some things put up, soon. Maybe I'll work on that. And next we have announcements. I don't actually have any announcements. I don't know, Alex, if you have anything that you want to announce.
No, it's interesting because today, I guess, is the first day. Because yesterday, Governor Cuomo announced that today would be, the lifting of or the end of, the state of emergency in the state. So that's just good to mention. So at some point, it might be good to start to figure out in-person meetings and stuff. So last night at the village board meeting, we talked about this, and obviously, with the village board, beholden to like public meeting laws and stuff. So like we can't meet virtually as a board anymore, but we discussed having hybrid for everything to make it so people can participate no matter what, because there still is like this serious threat out there and stuff. So Ariana is working on some more setups for Village Hall to make it so that all the groups can kind of have that ability to have more of a virtual component along with meeting in person. So I guess we'll keep you guys posted on how that will all work. And it's honestly been so long since we had all of our committees, chairs, commissions, etc., meeting in person Village Hall. So I actually have a note to myself to, as soon as I'm done with my week, to circle back with Ariana and Nicole and everyone in the clerk's office to kind of maybe refresh all of us on, you know, how that works, how to get into the building, how to, you know, how it all works. So
Right. How to schedule specific meetings. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like which room are we going to be in? You know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, because we had talked about it at the end of our meeting last month. Carmine had mentioned that, which was a really good point. That I mean, it becomes an issue of, you know, like traveling, not so much this time of year, but later on when it gets darker earlier and traveling at night can become a problem, that we should figure out. I mean, it's great if we can have sort of a hybrid mix of some people come in person and maybe some people call in, or, you know, whatever mix you can get, because there's sometimes when it's just not that easy to get away, and come to an in-person meeting, but you could attend any, you know, like from home, and that would be great, you know, because otherwise before COVID, I mean, you would just have not come at all. So this could be really helpful.
Well,
And if
for
we
me,
can,
Nadine, for me, it's, I cannot drive at night, so
right.
anything in person, you know, I'd have
Yeah.
to get a
So,
ride with
I mean,
somebody or just try to find my Zoom connection.
right.
And
Well,
go
we'll get
on.
that worked out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just saying that that's so, but
exactly.
I think meeting in person would be great, but you know, you're right, certain conditions and things.
Right. Or, you know, like we can do something. I mean, you know, like sometimes we could arrange to get a ride for you or somebody, you know, like
Yeah,
if, I
well,
mean,
let's see
I'm
what
in the village,
happens. Yeah,
so.
Susan, as long as I'm working, I can always arrange a ride as long as you don't mind sitting in a police car.
if I have to sit in the back. I'll
What
make
better
sure-
way to
You
ride?
can sit in the front, just don't hit any buttons.
Thank you, Carmine. That's
You're
very
welcome.
nice of you.
But seriously,
I
if
know
you
where I live.
I am serious. If there ever is a meeting that's going to be live, even if it's a hybrid, but you still want to attend live and I'm working, I can actually
I appreciate
absolutely
that.
arrange
Very
to pick you up.
kind. Thank you.
Yep.
My license says daylight hours only. So I'm
That's
not
fine.
gonna-
It's not an issue. I'll pick you up.
Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we move on to approval of last meeting minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at those? And I move to approve them. Did somebody second? Anybody want to second that?
I'll second
Approval.
it.
Thanks, Susan. Okay. All right, now Sergeant Foucault, is your time. There was the question that Alex had raised last time about the step for like between mediation and eviction, like if there was something in between that.
Yes. I actually just spoke with the clerk from the court. The court does offer mediation services. Because of COVID, they're kind of just reorganizing now. But it's definitely something that if somebody were to ask for it, they could arrange some sort of a mediation pre-eviction.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, that's definitely a good resource for you guys, you know, to provide. All they have to do is call the courthouse, 255-0041, and then the clerks there can arrange some sort of mediation services. So there's another tool for your tool bag.
Okay, yeah, that is a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they haven't done it in a while, so it's, you know, it's kind of almost new again to them.
We're all getting back. It's sort of like
Yeah, so
you hear
understand
that
that.
rusty engine starting up.
Yeah, but it's definitely something new for them, but it's something that they are going to be starting up again.
Okay, that's good.
As far as updates, you know, nothing real serious. I had an incident that I was involved in about 3 weeks ago. It was a landlord-tenant issue, and I didn't have the answer because, you know, once again, it was a civil thing. I had a gentleman who had just purchased a house, and he purchased what he believed was a vacant house. However, when he goes to the house, there is a tenant still living there who was staying there because of COVID. However, he wasn't paying his rent. So it was one of those tense moments where belongings were on the front yard and new landlord was there and there was lots of arguing. I mean, luckily so I actually didn't have an answer for the new owner. So I was scrambling because my contact, I couldn't get a hold of him. So I was scrambling, trying to find your number. I ended up finding it, but before I found yours, I ended up getting an answer. And And you also sent, I believe, an attachment in an email where unfortunately it is the new owner's responsibility. So, but luckily the tenant that was there, his father had showed up, and he was more than willing to put his son up in a hotel to help the landlord and his son. His son was very stubborn. He had the means to pay, he just didn't want to pay, and it was a very tense situation but I just didn't have an answer for the new owner, but now I do, and that's pretty much the only update that I have. Nothing serious has happened since then, landlord tenant related.
I'm glad that, the resources prove useful. Save my cell phone.
I have it now. So
okay, good.
I have it now.
Yeah, you need it. You need that information when you're on the spot there.
Because I have everything bookmarked. I don't actually know anything. I just I just know where I saved it all.
Well, that's good.
I know, and I've explained this in the past. A lot of times when we deal with these landlord tenant issues, we try to tell the people that we're the police. We deal with the criminal matters, and landlord tenant is civil. That's why we always refer people to the sheriff's office. But I mean, I find that just being in this group is helped my knowledge base a lot, and I'm able to, instead of referring out, I'm able to provide better guidance in these cases. So it's definitely I'm getting a lot of info from being involved here as well as your liaison. So thank you guys.
Well, that's good. So if you didn't have that information, like what's the role of the sheriff's office in that? Would they be the ones who would be responsible for dealing with civil issues, or?
Yeah, I mean, we usually try to mediate the immediate, whether it's a threat, whether it's something dangerous, whether there's a fight about to happen, or we try to mediate between both the landlord and the tenant. And we always refer them out to the sheriff's department because we don't have all the answers related to civil matters.
Oh, okay.
So we will deal with the immediacy of it, if they need us there, but It's always referring out to the sheriff's department.
Okay. That's
But
good.
like I said, I'm finding that more often now I'm able to at least offer some sort of guidance.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all I have for you guys this week.
Okay. Now we're going to talk about cases. And the first case I want to talk about is the case at 35A South Chestnut Street, which has, there have been various emails passed back and forth, and it's for me, it's a very frustrating situation because I feel that there's nothing that we can do to make this situation better. And it seems to me that it's exactly the kind of situation that our group should be able to work with, because, there are a lot of people being hurt right now. I don't know if people have looked at the emails that have come in that have been exchanged among the landlord, among the tenant that's staying in the house, and the new tenants who are trying to move into the house. And there's conflicting information, and I'm not in a position to decide who I think is telling the truth, and it's not really my responsibility anyway, nor is it any of our responsibilities. But it seems to me that there might be some way that we can figure out how to bring people to the table or something to discuss what could be a resolution here, whether the tenant who's staying there now, whether there's someplace else she can live or go to, or, like if there's any way for her to, for them to coexist as long as the eviction moratorium is in place, because I personally understand everybody's standpoint. And it's not like we can't have answers because there's this, it would be something that would be solved in court, but it's not going to go to court before, before absolutely August 31st or whenever it gets scheduled. So I don't know, if anyone has any thoughts about it. Because,
can I offer just a correct or a little bit more clarity, Nadine, on that?
Yeah.
So like the eviction moratorium doesn't like mean anything unless it is brought to the court, if that makes sense, you know, and then the court would determine if the eviction moratorium would be a reason for a delay.
Right.
So that, just to make clear, that's not up to, you know, anyone but a judge to determine. You know, the eviction moratorium has literally no bearing on any of this, unless it's gone to the courts and the judges have made that decision.
Right, but nothing's going to go to the courts until the eviction moratorium is up.
Well,
And
the
it's my
judges will
understanding,
get to just determine that, is the thing, if a case goes to the courts. You know, plenty of evictions have been going through all over the county.
okay, well, then there's not going to be an eviction, I guess, right now, but the thing is that I do have to say, my understanding is that this tenant has been saying that we've been advising her, and that's not true, because the first I heard about it was when it had already become a crisis. And so that makes things very difficult for this council. So I think that what we need to do, and I think about this with the way that I try to advise people, because of course we're not legally trained. Well, I'm not anyway, and I don't think most of us are. But we basically, people come to us for help or for answers, and we can guide them in the direction of legal help. We can give them resources about, you know, what the law says. We can, you know, send them the tenant's guide from the AG's office. We can quote laws and all of that kind of thing. But basically, we don't have any legal standing. Like, we're not counseling them, and we're not standing behind them or behind anybody that we counsel, because we're not anybody's representative. So we just have to make sure that we make that clear to people when we talk to them or give them information, and because it puts us in a bad light, I think. And I'm actually trying to think too. I mean, I don't know if there's any way, like, this situation has gone so far that I don't think that there's any kind of way to get everybody to the table and talk. But I don't know if this is something to think about, that there would be a possibility for us to figure out a way that we might be able to offer a service. I mean, I know we supposedly don't mediate, but on the other hand, can we encourage people to talk to one another or provide some sort of venue for them to work things out, you know, with our resources or from our standpoint, or whether that's just totally out of our jurisdiction at all.
So it is, sorry, like, we can mediate, or you guys can mediate any situations, just as long as it's not at the point of, you know, litigation. Like, once
Right.
it becomes like a legal issue and there's you know, any sort of attorney involved, and it's like that, it's just way beyond the purview of, you know, this group of volunteers, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Carmine. You can chime in too, because that's maybe where your information from the court would be useful.
No, I'm apologizing for not being in the know, but can you give us a Cliff Notes version of what the case is about?
Oh, this case?
Yeah.
There's a house at 35A South Chestnut Street that is a 4-bedroom house, and there's one tenant who is overstaying her lease in the house.
Due to the
And-
COVID moratorium?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was basically it sounds to me like there was a misunderstanding between the landlord and this tenant as to whether the lease was going to be extended and the tenant was going to be able to stay. So the tenant did not sign a lease renewal, and the landlord took that to mean that the house was going to be available, so she rented it out to 4 students starting June 1st. And they tried to move in on June 1st, and this tenant has stayed in the house. My understanding also is that a number of threats were made on the part of the tenant, and I think that it got up to be a fairly ugly situation where there was not, like where there was not understanding, and it was an adversarial kind of relationship.
Okay. Thank you.
And,
Now I remember that. I remember hearing this in the station because we were called for this.
yeah, because the police were called.
Yeah, I don't know all the details, but I do remember
Right.
hearing.
I don't know all the details either. I'm trying to like, because I don't know exactly, like the sequence of events or what went on, because we were not aware of it until it was just before. It's like the lease was to be up May 31st, and we heard about it like on the 26th or the 27th of May. So, like this was after it had already turned to a pretty ugly situation, and the students are trying to move in, and they're not comfortable in the house because there is animosity apparently, from what I've heard, and they're kind of stuck in the middle because they had no idea what was going on, or they didn't, like it's not their fault.
Yep.
And I don't know how to help them. That is basically what my feeling is.
So who has contacted you? The new tenants or the tenant that's overstaying the lease?
All of them, actually.
Everyone. Okay.
Yeah, I've been in contact with everybody there.
Yeah.
Not all of the students who are moving in, but they've sent me they've sent the council very heartfelt and well-reasoned emails that I can certainly relate to, although not a lot of it has anything to do with anything that I can do. And if you'll see in the chat, I mean, the landlord is listening to the meeting. She is here at the meeting. And so she's making points that they served 60-day notice of the non-renewal, and it wasn't any misunderstanding. So be that, I mean, it's reached a point where I can't actually say. I mean, I feel supportive of everybody and sympathetic with everybody. I know what I think happened and what I feel happened, but that's not that's not what I'm here for. I'm just trying to figure out how we can make this situation better. I mean, I don't know, like I'm so frustrated because I don't know what, if there's anyone who can intervene, or like this is not an unheard of thing, I don't think, but I don't know if anybody's heard of anything before that happened, then there was a solution or anything like that.
So I read all the old minutes that exist for Landlord-Tenant Relations Council, like trying to see if there were any things like this. It's not as good as doing like a full foil of the courts, through history to find an example of this. That's about as far as I got in research. I just know that in terms of, Landlord-Tenant Relations Council, and then me just as a random elected that is a liaison for it, there's nothing we can do other than provide the same list of resources that exist,
Well, so, I mean, Liz, the landlord is saying that they're open to mediation. I mean, I wonder, like, would this be a situation where the court would do that? I mean, is this something where they could contact the court and the court could have everyone come and work it out?
This would definitely be a court, mediation. This is definitely not like, it hasn't, Landlord-Tenant Relations Council, again, like once there's, any parties reaching out and saying there's like letters from lawyers and stuff, it's kind of beyond our purview to do anything but copy paste the same resources that we share with everyone.
Right. Well, I think maybe, like, maybe that would be our recommendation, that, like, this is above our pay grade, basically. And we could recommend that they contact the court. And would the court, would the court call everybody involved in and sit them down and talk to them? Do you think that's how it works? I mean, because they would have sort of like more of the ability to sort of urge people, or not coerce, but urge people to come in and participate.
No
Well,
idea. It's worth a call. Sorry. Just trying to offer points of information. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Steve.
oh yeah, I guess I have a point of order, which is just or point of clarification. So what is our procedure in terms of, like, we have some representatives who would like to speak. Do we let them, or?
That's up to you guys. Well, I guess it's up to Nadine, who is chair. And I've seen the Landlord Tenant Relations Council kind of go about this in different ways. In the past, like a long time ago, like, like 15 years ago, like I saw like some kind of mediation happening, but not really, more so just letting people talk and stuff. So it's up to you guys. The sharing of information is kind of the best interpretation of mediation. Again, just I would, be careful at this point, because, it has gotten to a point so far, but, whatever you guys want to do, you can do.
Well, my inclination is to say that perhaps we should let the landlord speak. I know I can see from the chat, and I don't want to disappoint everybody, but I see that some of the new tenants want to speak, and I don't know whether that would really be appropriate at this point, because I do understand. I've read your emails, and I do understand your viewpoints, although not all of the issues that you bring up are really applicable to anything that we can work with. I mean, I'm fully sympathetic with your situations, but it doesn't have much to do with the actual case. You might have a separate case that you could bring, and we could discuss that separately. But this particular situation really is, I think, needs to be focused between the landlord and the tenant who is holding over, because that's the primary case. So would everybody be okay if we let Liz, the landlord, speak? Is there any objection to that? Okay, can we let her in? Can we give her permission?
Hi. Oh, my camera
Oh.
is not working. Why is it not working? I'm gonna switch with Matt, maybe. Okay.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Turn off the video. So thanks for hearing me out.
You're on mute.
Hello, are you there?
You're on mute.
I'm
Hey.
sorry. Can you hear me? Sorry, we're having tech issues now. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how to do your volume, honey. Oh, yes, I do. I got it. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So our experience so far has been that a tenant that's lease ended on May 31st has been advised and has constantly threatened us that the Landlord Tenant Relations Council, which I believe was Alex and not the council, was advising her how to stay on beyond her lease and how to make that work. And she's been kind of threatening us and harassing us in various different ways throughout April and May. Basically, once we sent her the letter of non-renewal, after we gave her multiple chances to stay on after June 1st, and she passed all of those deadlines and told us, stop stressing me out. I can't deal with this right now. And so we said, well, we have a lot of interest in the house. We're going to rent the house. And so we rented the house after multiple warnings, which we have documented, and there's really nothing to question about it. After that, she got pretty aggressive and started to, kind of very noticeably try to build a case against us. We've done everything, any repairs on the house within 24 hours as per required by law. She has been such a challenging tenant that we have, throughout every single step of the way, spoken to legal counsel because we knew she was constantly trying to get us. And so we were like, woo, let's make sure we don't do any missteps because the laws are quite complicated and they're extremely, extremely on the side of tenants. So we know and we feel very confident that we have done everything by the law and been okay. We signed a lease with many of the young women here who are joining this meeting. And 3 out of the 4 that were, their lease began on June 1st. We gave the tenant, the holdover tenant, warning that they were coming in, like everything was up front. And she said, no, you legally can't do this. But she rented 1 bedroom in a 4-bedroom house. So we absolutely have the legal right to rent the other spaces that she does not rent. Her access within the house has remained exactly the same as when she moved in. So even though we are not happy about her being there, we have followed the law and we have stuck with it. She filed the COVID hardship and she said, I am protected until August 31st. There's nothing you can do about it. And we said, well, this really stinks, but I think she's right. And then that was it. And we informed the tenants who are here today, plus the 4th in their group, about the really, really unfortunate situation that we found ourselves in. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure that the tenant was constantly being counseled by Alex on how to escalate the situation. So the cops have been there multiple times. She has threatened to change the locks on the new tenants. She has aggressively blocked their access into their rightful bedroom. And now they're actually, or physically, sorry, they're actually very concerned about moving into the house that they are paying rent on. And Matt and I feel awful about that. Matt is my business partner and my husband and right next to me. And we just feel awful for them. And we are really, really shocked that a governmental body such as the Landlord-Tenant Relations Council, when we reached out in May asking for help, told us there's nothing they can do, while at the same time advising the tenant how to escalate this situation to the place where we are today. And I have to say, when I go onto the village website and I read through the mission and the law that created this council, it is not doing what it is said, why it was created. And I think that unless you are able to get back into why this council was created, I think that honestly it should just be dissolved, because you're basically letting Alex speak as a tenant activist and someone who is completely biased and states it in her emails, saying, if you're a landlord, you're there to exert your power over other people. I mean, that's her view. And she is the one who is responding to all of your emails. And I have to tell you, I know your name was Carmine, but officer, I'm concerned that you are going to take advice from Alex on how to handle these situations because it comes from an extremely skewed place, and it's not even. It's not like, oh, this is how we're going to make this better. It's like, this is how we're going to help the tenant, even though, like, the situation you just said to me sounded really tricky for the landlord. I mean, it sounded like it came to a good resolution, because family was able to step in and help. But I'm not really sure what kind of information you would have gotten that would have been unbiased and even. So I'm sorry to be kind of long-winded, but I am so upset by this situation. And the tenants are, I mean, they have a home, but it's a home that they're uncomfortable in going to. And I find that that's a real problem. And if this council is to, act out on its mission, I think that this should be made better for them.
Well, if Liz, if do you think that you would be willing to engage in something like doing something with the court, like like some kind of mediation step that the court would
Yeah,
provide?
absolutely. We
Because
called
we
multiple.
really can't, like, I'm not legally trained. None of us are really legally trained.
Yeah,
And,
right. I recognize that. And I did call multiple mediators, but the village website does say that you do mediation.
I know. I'm hoping to get that removed because if we're not able to do mediation, we shouldn't be saying. I also don't like, it says landlord interests, tenant interests, as if a person who's a landlord or a tenant is only interested in landlords and tenants, which I think is something else
It
that's
just sets up this adversarial role.
meeting. Yeah, and
What
that's
I
not what it should
think
be.
is that if it's just about sharing resources, there should be a page on the village website that has all these links. And if the council is powerless and can't help in this seriously crisis situation, what are we doing?
Well,
And I personally, my experience has been so incredibly negative that, I mean, I can't understand. I mean, I understand why it's been hard to recruit other landlords. It actually makes a lot of sense to me. I mean,
Well,
why would you want to be in that place?
well, we would like to have people come and use their voices to, like, to try to help us make things better, and their viewpoint. So, which is why I wanted to hear from you, because I know you have a particular view, and it's important to that you express that.
Yes.
I have
Oh, sorry.
something. You have to mute it.
I unmuted.
No, you have to do this.
You got it.
I have to add something that Liz missed. In this particular, can you hear me?
Yeah.
In this particular instance, the advising person of this committee also chose one life over 4 lives. So there are 4 people suffering. Their mothers are not sleeping at night. Frankly, I'm not sleeping at night because of this one person being protected for all the wrong reasons. And so this is a judgment that was made that is not equitable. And at this point, there are 4 people without a home, and there's one person living for free in a 4-bedroom house by herself. And we know that there's a housing crisis, but this one person is getting away with an awful lot while 4 people don't have a home.
Can I ask a
They
question?
are lucky that they have family to lean on, but I know the tenant also has family to lean on. And I know that for a fact because I spoke with her parent.
Okay. All right, Steve, what did you want to say?
So I'm new to the situation, so I haven't seen any of the emails. I'm wondering, the current tenant is renting just the 1 bedroom, or she's renting the entire house nominally, like according to the lease? Okay, so I mean, it seems like there's a mix of issues, which is you have the 3 other bedrooms, which she has no control over, right? But you rented 4 bedrooms, and now there's an issue with the 4th student trying to take over the bedroom from the tenant, which is the harder thing. But if there's, why is would it still be an issue if there were just 3 people renting the 3 other bedrooms?
Steve, they agreed. Sorry, I forgot about that. They agreed. The 4 tenants moving in agreed to move into 3 bedrooms and share the room until August 31st came, because we told them, once the tenant stated that she wasn't leaving, we had to call them and tell them, the situation they were facing. And so we told them, and they said, "Oh God, well, I guess we'll share a room," And so two of the tenants were going to share a room. There was never any attempt to move into the holdover tenant's room.
Did she ever have veto access over who was going to be her roommate? Or like, was she ever living with anyone else?
I'm so sorry.
He's
I didn't
muted.
hear you. I'm
He's
sorry.
muted. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Was she ever living with other people that she didn't know, like just people you had rented to? So,
Yes, the whole house, each bedroom was rented, and all 3 of the other tenants moved out on May 31st.
okay.
Or
And
thereabouts. I think
what does she
one.
say her objection is to other people living there?
Um,
We don't have her here, so I don't know if we can.
Yeah.
Yes,
It would seem easier to do mediation with both parties
right.
if we were going to try to do that.
Which
But,
is why we really need to have, we really need to hear we would need to hear from everybody if we were going to try to mediate this. But I don't know that we can really do that.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm really here to bring the issue to the council about having a tenant activist answer your emails and act in such a biased way and represent you. I think that's a real issue. And then I also have to say that I'm trying to advocate for these tenants who are on here today, because we're very concerned about the situation, and we did go to the police station to find out what our rights were when she started to threaten to lock them out, change the locks and lock them out, and she really escalated, and it was a lot of text messages, a lot of emails, a lot of threats. And so we went to the police department and we said, well, what can we do? And really the idea was, you as a landlord, you can't do anything. You just have to send these other tenants to the house and they have to face her and then call the cops, which I just think is just terrible. It's a terrible thing to tell people to have to do. And then, we're told to just not be involved because there's nothing we can do. And so it's really tough because these girls need to move into their house and there's someone kind of blocking access. And the only thing we're able to do is to tell them, we'll go there, get into a fight, and then call the cops. I mean, it's like,
well, yeah, that's not, I believe that's not really a workable answer. But I think at this point, the only resolution that we could have is to suggest that, if you wanted to contact the court and try their mediation, there are people who would be in a position to do that for you. And like, I don't know what happens if the tenant doesn't want to participate in that, like whether they can, whether they have any ability to persuade her, or if it's just a lost cause. But I think that's the only thing that I can think to suggest to get to, like a solution. Because the thing is that I'm looking at the chat, just all of you, I think we all understand your situation, and it's not that we're not sympathetic, and we don't blame you. I mean, nobody blames you for being in this situation. We're sympathetic with you. We realize that you just want to live in your house, and like you're looking forward to living there and starting school and everything like that. But that's sort of not part of this issue right now. It's really the situation between the landlord and the tenant, like that's remaining, and we need to resolve it from that standpoint. Like like you two, those are the 2 parties that are really directly responsible for this first, the first step in that. I think. I mean, and I'm just saying what it looks like to me. So
I've,
it,
uh,
uh-huh.
I just had a suggestion, just a quick suggestion, because obviously the ideal situation is that the tenant finds a new home that is appropriate and legal. But since that can't happen, a temporary suggestion, temporary solution is that Alex, with her power that she has used to advise the tenant, suggests to the tenant that she peacefully allows the tenants who have rights to live there to live in peace. And I think that that's a viable temporary solution. This is prior to mediation, prior to eviction court. Simply say, hey, you've overstayed your lease. You're using COVID eviction moratorium. You're using August 31st as your date. Why don't you just let these tenants live and cook their food and eat food and go to work and whatever else they do? Maybe just coexist for a while until this all gets sorted out. It could take just a simple suggestion from the person who's been advising to help with that situation so that people could live in peace. Just a suggestion.
So Legal Services of the Hudson Valley has been advising that tenant for a while now. Just to make that point. But I'll say something like to that effect, sure. But yeah, it's definitely been Legal Services of the Hudson Valley. I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice. I give the same links to everyone. But yeah, just want to also stress again, no one can use the eviction moratorium unless an eviction proceeding has been filed. It is not in play unless an eviction proceeding has been filed with the courts. And then the courts will determine whether or not that hardship form, will work, in terms of them not being evicted, and therefore not dealing with the case until after August 31st, or they will deal with the case. So the eviction moratorium is actually not in play whatsoever until there is a court proceeding.
She's using it.
But that's actually not true. I'm not sure where you're getting that, but basically, if you go to file eviction for instance, for not paying rent, and someone has filed that COVID paper, the court does not look at it until after August 31st. So what you're saying is not actually true. It's just not true.
And we know that from experience.
Yeah, and we've spoken to the courts. We've spoken to lawyers.
Well, that's good information, I think, for this group to know, just because we've seen a couple evictions actually happen right here in New Paltz Justice Court the past few months.
Evictions. It's once someone files COVID paperwork, which I'm pretty sure you know, they're protected until August 31st.
All right. Well, we've had a lot of information here, and I'm not sure that we can accomplish anything else right now. But there has been some good talk that I think had to sort of come out. And I think that, if Alex, if you can speak to the tenant, and Liz, if you want to look into, check into the mediation, if that would help with the court, because you're right. There's very little that this council can do, legally to solve this problem. All we can basically say is urge people to be nice to each other and try to resolve it, peacefully without, legal requirements or something.
I did leave messages, both Matt and I have, at a number of mediation services, like Dutchess County
No responses.
mediation. No one's ever called us back.
We're lucky we got a lawyer.
Yeah, so lawyers.
Yeah, I guess they're probably very busy, maybe.
I'd imagine so. I am happy to call the court, and I will do that tomorrow and check in to see if that's up and running and available. And if you guys hear from that tenant, you can know that Matt and I are open, although we are not open to speaking with her because nothing good comes of that. But with a third party in the middle, we are willing to offer her monetary compensation to move out.
Cash for keys.
Cash for keys incentive. We are also willing to even hire people to physically move her belongings. Okay, I also sent many local listings in the same price range for single bedrooms to a person who reached out in between us, showing that there was, just yesterday, I think that I found 5 listings in about the same price range for single bedrooms available for her to move into. So, doing everything that I can, and I would, ask you as the council, landlord-tenant relations
To be there.
council, to
Be there for both sides.
be there for both sides, of course, and then also to offer these things to her and try to work something out, try to help us out here. We're at a loss, really.
Okay. Yeah. We'll certainly see what we can do. And if there's nothing, I can't obviously guarantee that there's anything that we can do. We've discussed the options that we have, and all we can do is maybe try again and see if we can reason with and bring people together. All right.
Now, real quick,
Thank you.
Liz, when this meeting's over, if you wouldn't mind calling the station and asking for me, because there's other things that you had mentioned not having to deal with, just the civil aspect of it that I'd like to talk to you about.
I'd be happy to. What time does the meeting end about? Because I'm guessing I'll probably end up hopping off after our case is done.
Okay. Yeah. It probably won't go on too much longer, but probably 20 minutes to a half an hour, maybe.
Okay, are you working at 8?
I'm working till 11 p.m. So
Oh, sorry about that.
if you want to call me, at 8:30, that should be fine.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yep.
Okay. I think we'll move on to the next issue that I was thinking about, and I had dealt with a couple of cases recently of tenants who were living in like vermin infested apartments and complaining about that. And the thing that I don't know is like when they inspect these apartments, when they do their, like with the rental registration, when they go to inspect the apartments, do they really inspect every apartment, and do they look for things like signs of roaches or insects or anything like that? What's a way that we can is there anything that we can do, let me just ask, that would can we have it re-inspected? Or if a tenant comes to us and complains that they have such a problem with their apartment, can we personally contact the building department? I know, Alex, you referred one person that had complained there. Is that our best procedure to we should send them to the building department?
In those cases, definitely. Corey from the building department wrote back. I forwarded him that one because it was so alarm. I was like, oh my God.
It was creepy, yeah.
And again, beyond anything we could help with besides giving the building department phone number. And he says, that sounds really terrible. Please, please, please encourage them to call Holly in the office. If they don't, I'm going to make a note of this anyway for the annual inspection, which is in September.
Okay, so that's good that they will note it down if they receive a complaint about an apartment, and then they'll look into that specifically. And if she does contact them directly, then they could send somebody out to look into it. Do you think that's what they would do?
Yes, because they're the code enforcers for building stuff. So they are the route to document issues of habitability.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that sounds good then. I think those were.
And Corey's always really good at answering these kinds of questions too. So
Yes.
you know, at some point, like once we're back in the swing of things in person, you know, I hate asking him to do more, but maybe we could like compile all of our questions that we've had and just get 15 minutes with him or something, you know.
Yeah, that would be great.
He's the
'Cause that,
best.
right, I know, yeah, and that would help a lot, I think, to, you know, like to help us know exactly what sort of things that they can do, you know, like to help people. There was just one other case that I received. Everybody, somebody was asking about like their landlord wanted to refund their security deposit via Venmo rather than a check, and I suggested that, you know, like they should really say that they're not comfortable receiving it that way, or just be honest, which she didn't want to receive it that way, and she should just say that she'd rather have a check, which I think is perfectly reasonable, and I think she probably did that. So that was it for cases, I think. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss in that realm, or that they dealt with? Did anybody deal with anything? Okay, so we're going to move on, and this is Alex's report.
I guess I gave my updates and announcements, just, you know, general.
You've already given them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But on one other thing, with the updated handbook that Nadia worked on, my roommate is a former volunteer in the Landlord Tenant Relations Council, back in town once again, and is willing to help us redesign it also into the zine format too, so we can print that and have that at the open air market and whatnot. So we can have the, you know, the web version, and then the more like fun booklet version. So I guess that's my full update.
Cool. So do you think we're going to be able to have like a space at the open air market at some point, or has that been decided?
I know Nadia really wanted to, so I guess we should circle back, because I know the market manager wanted to kind of see how the first few Sundays went.
Yeah.
And it's like Landlord Tenant Relations Council had some interest, and then Climate Smart, you know, task force wanted to do a textile recycling table, and then Climate Action Coalition wants to. So I was thinking if we could figure out like a rotation, you know,
Right. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
all the projects that we're all involved in. It's a lot of the familiar same faces. So
right, we can.
Yeah, I'll circle back with her again and let you know.
Okay. And well, moving on to old business. Did the What's Your Rent project, is there any update on that, or how's that going, or anything that you can share?
Oh, yeah. Results are still trickling in. I think it would be nice to do like another push. Now that there's like less, you know, because basically there's like big push towards, you know, the June 1st opening of the ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program application, and, you know, pushing that information out there was kind of like priority on my end. Not kind of, like 100%, definitely. I've been hearing, by the way, with ERAP, that people have been having like an easier time applying this time around. Because landlords can apply, tenants can apply. I don't know. It just sounds like it's an easier process than it was in the past. So we'll see. So now that we're past that rush, I'd like to just push it out a little bit more. You know, maybe like make the next meeting like the cutoff, and we'll see. The results are really depressing so far. So,
well, I guess, yeah, I guess that's what you can expect, really. It's sort of how depressing it is, maybe that I, you know, like, and it'll be, but hopefully it won't be just another thing that we can't do anything about. But, but it's good to know. I mean, I think.
Can I ask in what way the results are depressing?
So there is the one question in it that's like, you know, do you feel rent burdened? And like, that's where I don't have it open on my desktop, but that's where just the narrative is like, even a few folks were like, maybe the percentage, you know, maybe they're making it work, but once you hear the backstory, like they're making it work in a way that I'm like, that's not a good life, you know, like you're hanging by a thread, you know. That's the part that is hitting me a lot. Yeah, so I think you know, these narratives will be really helpful though, you know, moving forward. And in terms of the county housing action plan, I hope, you know, us working to collect some data and some stories, you know, will help us check off some marks once they, you know, make those clear, what the the housing smart communities checklist will be. It's clear that we need, you know, we need more resources out there for a lot of our community members.
Yeah. All right. Oh, and speaking about the term mediation and a list of our duties, do you think that there's a way for us to like rewrite some of that, or does it have to be completely redone as like a law or
So
something?
it's the law. So, you know, that would have to be writing like, you know, a new law. So if that's something you guys really, really want to, you know, like you think that's a recommendation, I was thinking for the report, that would be a really good thing to write actually, is, you know, like landlord tenant relations council, like, you know, recommendations based on just all these different things from the past year and change. One of them being, you know, a revision of the local law establishing the landlord tenant relations council in XYZ ways.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is actually exactly what landlord tenant relations council is established for, is, you know, offering that kind of recommendation, because that's something, you know, I could figure out what to do with legislatively. But yeah, it's not something that can just be like,
It's not just an edit.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's
On the
an
website.
actual law. So we'd have to,
Yeah.
you know, really be deliberate with it and really think about, you know,
Yeah. Well,
about
then
that.
that's something I'd like to ask everybody to do then, you know, to read the lines of you know, like what basically our responsibilities are, and try to figure out if, you know, like if we do that, if those things are things that we do, and if they're not things that we do, how would we revise that? Like, how would you think to revise that to better reflect what it is that we actually do, or what our responsibilities can be? And I had mentioned too, where even where we list the people who are on the council, where it says somebody so and so is, you know, like tenant interests or landlord interests, it's kind of misleading, because that's not really what, I mean, that's not really what that person's supposed to be doing. We all represent everybody's interests, and we just come from different viewpoints. So, you know, like, and hopefully we can that will balance out, you know, whatever move we make. So anyway, that's part of it. So we'll if everybody wants to think about it, if you come up with anything that you think you could offer, that would be helpful. All right.
I don't think, just want to also note, I don't think that there's any prescribed manner in for this report to be, you know, the way it is. So, you know, those thoughts could be in bullet points, they could be in a paragraph, you know, whatever feels good and right to you guys, will be very, very helpful to me and to the community, and to us moving forward, you know. So just don't limit yourselves with any format in that way.
Right. Now, if we did want to, I mean, we were saying that we would try to do something by the end of July. That doesn't really give us much time. I mean, this is this is like the last meeting before the meeting in the end of July. So I'm not sure, if anybody's willing to meet outside of our regular meetings to discuss, putting this together. But I think that that's what we're going to have to do unless we push the date back, which, I mean, I'd rather not have to do that, but
I'm okay, by the way, with whatever, date we want to work with. We haven't had a report before. And I just realized that I had meant to share the Affordable Housing Board's reports as like a good sample, of what like a report could look like.
okay, that would be good. Some kind of a guide.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now, actually.
Well, if we do postpone it and put it back further, which, if we want to do that because we're so shorthanded, that would be my comment. Because I can see now, like there's some housekeeping stuff that we have to do, like making sure that the minutes are available and the agendas and everything like that. And I've been a bit lax about trying to get engaged with all of that stuff. But we do want to do that. And so I think that, it could be the kind of thing where maybe we would put it off a little longer. But we should probably meet outside of our regular meeting to discuss that. If, like it doesn't have to be a really long, like meeting, but it will take a look. If you send us that other report, we can each review that so we have some idea of what other people do and what we think we might be able to do. So that sounds like something.
Yeah, it might be really good for, next meeting to all, for you all to discuss like what the elements you want to be in the report are, and like kind of settle on that, and then let me know if there's anything else like I can like dig out,
Yeah, because the other thing was, I put in the agenda, I did put some suggestions of some, like some things that we might want to include. But I've been with the council since the end of December, and I don't know what went on before then. And there aren't really, I don't know where the records are kept, like any minutes or, information from those meetings in 2020, which aren't posted on the website. I was speaking to Ariana about that today, and she said, well, if we have anything, she's more than happy to put it up there. But we might want to be able to look back at some of that information, to add to, otherwise we're just like, for me, I'm just going to be dealing with 2021, which I know, like which I experienced myself, because I don't really know everything that went on before that.
And I think that's absolutely fine, to just focus on what, yeah. And Nadia was, around in 2020 and was a part of the town hall and stuff. So it could probably help fill in the blanks, and we can have kind of, a whole pandemic era report.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be good. All right. New business. I think we've already discussed some of this. We just discussed the agendas and minutes because I spoke to Ariana about that, and she said she would post anything that we have available, and we'll just have to see if whatever we can find. And then just about what how we're gonna hold meetings going forward. So, and we've talked about that really already. So, I think
Focus
that.
on people renting in houses and certainly.
What's that? Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, a video was playing on my other computer.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was thinking, is there somebody else at this meeting that I haven't heard from yet? Okay. Is there anything else anybody wants to say before we adjourn?
I just want to say that we had an issue here with the water, with our bills. We were getting individual bills here. And all of a sudden we got a letter from our landlord yesterday that they're taking over the building. There was a lack of communication between the water department and my management corporation down here at the Mulberry Square, which everyone was quite nice. I got it resolved between the two of them. I was acting like the mediator there. Talking about mediation. I called my landlord and I had to call the village, and they were very, very helpful. But this came out of the blue. I'm living here 9 years. We've always gotten monthly, the water bills quarterly, and all of a sudden we're getting a thing that it's being added to our rent. So the communication's been not great between some of the departments, and I don't know whether it's I'm leaning toward my landlord, the management corporation down in Mount Vernon, being a little lax in getting things done. But I do want to thank the village board. The ladies that I spoke to were very, very helpful today. I do want to say something positive about that. But
Well, that's good to know.
yeah, we
Yeah.
were all very upset. If it's not paid by the 30th, you're going to get charged late fees.
I'm sure.
It could have been handled completely differently, and I don't know where the mix-up was, but I'm going on this. I'm fairly sure it came from Westchester. So thank you to the village, to the ladies in the office and the deputy assistant clerks.
We have the best people who work in the village. Agreed.
They were
Yeah,
very
they've always been very nice when I've dealt with them. Okay, I think that's it. I move to adjourn.
helpful. Okay.
Does somebody want a second?
Again?
Okay. Steve. All right.
Good job, guys.
Good night.
Now I have to figure out how to turn this all off.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
See you next month.
Have a good night. Yeah. See ya.